you heard. It's the first ever episode of this podcast, so we're super excited. And with me today, I have my two special guest speakers, Jeff and Sonia. Hey, say hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
The basically the purpose of this podcast is to, basically give an understanding to people of how different men and women are and how there's so many misconceptions out there around what men mean when they say something and how women interpret it and vice versa, especially in the dating environment. So we just wanted to have a bit of fun with this podcast and get a few perspectives from the male perspective and the female perspective on different topics. So, the first topic in episode one, we're talking about who should make the first move. Should it be the man? Should it be the woman? Should it be both? My personal opinion is I like really assertive men. So, I will never make the first move, even though I'm not shy. I'm happy to make the first move, but I really want a guy who's super assertive that will walk up to me or even approach me on a dating app and make the first move to ask me out. That's just my preference. And yeah, I don't know. And it's not right or wrong, it's just my preference. But throwing it over to you, Jeff, right, from the male perspective, because we've got obviously two females at the moment, and you're on your lonesome. Like what do you think? Like when you're like, would you prefer to ask or make the first move, or do you mind if the woman makes the first move?
Yeah, I don't mind. I wouldn't be emasculated or anything if a woman opened the door. It'd be nice once in a while. There's the uncertainty and the pressure on a man to always have to ask and always have to go out on a limb and maybe get rejected. It's a lot of pressure, and it'd be nice if there was at least a gentle opening from a woman. I will do it when needed. You mentioned dating app. I will definitely do it on a dating app. 100% of the time.
Hmm.
The Once I'm matched with somebody, you kind of already have opened the door. So I'm pretty quick after a few messages. If the few back and forths went pretty well, I'm quick to say you want to meet for a drink.
But that's because
Um,
you're a real man, right? And there's not many of those.
Oh no.
And really are
I'm
not that many in Australia. There's a lot more in the US, I feel. But if the woman made the first move on the dating website, right? Would you be really impressed by that? Or would you just think, okay, she's a bit desperate? Because I think sometimes I find that if a woman makes the first move, then the guy thinks she's desperate and then he's kind of no longer interested. What are your thoughts on that one?
That thought does not cross my mind about desperation. On a dating app, you've already matched. There's already a mutual some connection, whether it's typically surface, right? You like their look, they like your look. So once the door's open there, I wouldn't be bothered if somebody reached, said, "Hey, let's meet for a drink," before I did. Um, it would not bother me in the slightest, and
And
and I
what,
wouldn't
like,
think
would you be
much.
impressed by that? Like, if a
I
woman did that?
I wouldn't say impressed. It'd just
Mhm.
be it would give me a little bit more certainty she's really into me and really wants to, meet in person. So it gives you a little bit more confidence from a guy's perspective, I think, but not a huge positive or negative in either direction, in my opinion.
And then in real life, right? Forget the dating apps because, for me personally, I wish everyone would get off the dating apps and we just go back to old school meeting in real life, right? So, like if you're in the grocery store picking up some groceries at Trader Joe's or whatever, and you see the cute babe in the corner looking at avocados or whatever, like, you know, what does she have to do like to get you to make the first move? Because sometimes guys say to me, like, I don't mind making the first move, but like she's got to send me signals. Like,
Right.
well, what is it like? What do we have to do as women to because sometimes I feel we have to hold up a placard going, I like you. And then they're still like, does she like me? You know?
Any signal would be, open, even saying anything, can you
Mm.
help me find this? Or, what are your thoughts on anything to open up a conversation? It is really hard. I'm sure in both directions, but as a guy to always feel that pressure, as I said, um, I think women, my mind is some women don't want to be bothered in certain situations. And I would think food shopping and gym and, people are there to do something. And it'd be nice if they casually opened the conversation. Just a simple, hi, how are you doing today? Or anything would be, let me know
Yeah.
you're interested in talking.
And it's interesting that you bring up the grocery store, Javina, because I mean, I've been in a couple of instances where, I've, noticed, a couple of, good looking guys. And I'm like you as well, though. I like to be approached. I like the man to make the first move. So I'm very shy when it comes to making the first move myself. But I have learned to try to make it very obvious that there is some interest. And I do that by like trying to catch, his eyes, trying
Well,
to
how do you do that? Like, do
smile.
you just stare at him like this? Like, how do
No,
you? Because I
well,
think this is
I
where
try.
guys are like, does she have something wrong with her eyes? Or is there something in her eye? Like,
No, no, it's not staring. It's more like catching eye contact and then just lingering for a little longer than you normally would. And trust me, I've learned to do that because a while ago when I first started, I would, see some guys that I would like to approach and I would just become all awkward and nervous and then just run away. And I'm like, all right, I need to figure out strategies to try to navigate this better. And then I kind of did my research and I'm like, all right, I need to smile more. I need to like linger my eye contact. And then a couple of times it's I felt the connection, but it hasn't been enough to make the guy approach me. So I feel like those signals are good signals, but to the guy, I don't think it's been enough.
what do you
And it
think,
could be for
Jeff,
any
from a
reason,
male
right? He could be
perspective?
married, he could be,
Yeah, but
unavailable.
also,
I mean, I don't know.
yeah, but also it could be to Jeff's point that like that's not enough and they need you to say something, right? So, Jeff, what do you think? Like, if you just saw a girl kind of giving you the eye, and Sonia does this hair flick, she does these ones when she
Oh
likes a
yeah.
guy. Like, so if
Yeah.
you saw Sonia giving you the eye and like doing these things, but she didn't talk to you, like, what are the chances that you would actually approach her?
Yeah, I mean, I think a look and a hair flip should be enough of a signal, but
Mhm.
it's tough. That's why I think a simple "Hi, how are you?" As you pass the verbal will that's simple, and even if
Okay.
it's "Hi, how are you?" and just walk, kind of keep walking a little. Once you've opened a conversation, then I think it really opens the door for the guy. Like, okay, she wants to speak, right? And as I said, I think my perspective is people just don't want to be bothered in public generally.
Hmm.
So it's hard to just approach and that symbol, that signal of I do want to speak to you, just hi, how are you? As you walk
Mm.
by. I think that opens it. I haven't had that ever happen to me. I don't think. Um, I don't think I've ever seen a look in a grocery store or a wink, and maybe I'm just not looking for it. But um, open speaking to somebody. I think is the real dead giveaway. Okay, they want to
Hmm.
talk.
Okay. All right, Jeff, I'm taking notes as you can see. So I need to
Yeah,
speak.
Yeah,
just hi,
this
just
is good
hi.
intel. I feel like we should be paying Jeff for this advice. Sonia, you need to give some good advice. He's like giving
Me,
really good
okay.
advice.
I so I've been to I actually am not on the dating apps. I have been to a few like single mixes.
Yeah, but have you
You
made the
know,
first move at these mixes or on the dating apps?
sorry if I
Have you
what?
ever made the first move at the mixes or the dating apps or on the dating
So
apps?
you know what? A couple of times I have, and my kind of move has been like if the conversation's good and I feel like there's a good connection. my standard line has been, hey, like, do you think we should exchange numbers? And that kind of has worked where, the guy will be like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And he'll take out his phone and then he'll give it to me. And then I'll put my number in my phone and then he'll hit the green button. So I get a missed call. And so we, have each other's numbers. But then I don't know, I feel like it's always kind of fizzled from there, like the numbers are exchanged, but then the conversation the next day is just very, very blah. So again, it's just based on my very, very limited experience, but that's the typical line I will use is, hey, should we exchange numbers?
Well,
So
this
keen
is
to see what Jeff,
another, yeah, but that's a good point, Son, because this is another reason why I never make the first move because I
yeah,
feel like if a guy really likes you, like
yeah,
he'll make the first move. Jeff, like again, like we'd love your commentary from a male perspective, but I find like on the dating apps and even in person, if they approach me, like they seem a bit more genuine than if it was the other way around.
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
disagree. I mean, I think if
mm,
you're talking, right, you're
Mm,
talking either at an event or you're talking on an app. I'm a little more traditional, and I'm going to ask at that point. The door's already open, and I feel like guys should do that. That's kind of traditional man. You should ask, and but the
mm,
conversation's already going on. It's the getting to that part that I think is where I have the question mark. Should she open the door first? Should I? But once you're matched on an app, guys
mm,
should be asking, very quickly, in my opinion. Um,
yeah,
for me, towards I am with, recently dating somebody for a little while here, and it's going really well. But when we first met, I had just changed my approach on the dating apps, which was let's just hop on the phone, almost immediately, right? So one or two
yeah,
texts back and forth. We hopped on the phone, and I think, that was 2.5, 3 months ago. We've been talking 2 hours a day, every day on the phone. So it went into this conversation and it just flowed. And, um, before her, there were a few people I spoke on the phone. That kind of jump started everything. The texting back and forth, I was so tired of that pretty quickly, which is
yeah,
why I very quickly, after several texts, hey, you want to meet for a drink tomorrow or the day after? Because I wanted to go in person and get a real conversation. And then I realized I was wasting some time and some money, and I probably should have hopped on the phone. So the phone started working better for me, at the tail end, and so far so good with the last effort here.
yeah, I
Jeff,
love that.
question for you. Yeah, that's awesome. Question for you. When you do have a good conversation with a girl, and if you don't kind of take the next step and say, hey, we should continue this over coffee or we should exchange numbers, like if a guy's not doing that, can a girl just assume he's not interested? Or could there be other reasons like he's shy or he's scared of rejection or because
Yeah,
sometimes I get really confused when the connection's great and I feel like we have the right engagement, but he's just not taking that next step and it's kind of awkward because you don't know what to do next? Um,
yeah. Look, every guy is going to be different. You had mentioned singles events. So some of the singles events and socials I went to, there were some guys that were really awkward. They did
yeah,
not know how to speak to women comfortably. They needed some coaching by the person running the event, and so I don't think it's safe to assume they're not interested. You may just
okay.
have somebody that's shy. You might have someone that's afraid of rejection. They don't want to ask because they don't want to get a no. But I don't understand that from where I come from, because if you're chatting and you're talking back and forth, for me, it's like it's a no-brainer. Ask the question. They're going to say yes. Otherwise, they wouldn't be talking to you anymore. Um, so it should be the guy should be comfortable asking, but you're dealing with all types of personalities and fears, and definitely I'm sure there are people that just are afraid to ask and they want you to open the door. So
Mm,
I don't think you can assume, but that's where some of the chatting and the conversation and kind of feeling them out, do they feel like a person that might be afraid to ask, or are they just not interested? I just think if there's conversation going on, there's some interest.
Yeah,
Period.
true. Good point. Hmm.
So is the moral of the story that, to just ask the guy out
I
if
don't
he
think it
hasn't made the move?
I don't think it hurts. Look, there may be a man who would be offended, but then you also got to ask yourself, if I offend a man by asking him out, is that somebody I want to date? Right? I see no harm in you opening the door, but that's me, a very masculine man like Joe. You were talking about what you're driven to.
Yeah,
Maybe
you.
he's like,
Mm.
I'm pissed off that she asked. That's not cool with me. Maybe.
Mm.
So I think you got to know what you're looking for and know what man you're trying to approach and feel it out a little bit. And if, Joe, you find for in your example, super masculine guy and you're getting that vibe, maybe you shouldn't ask right away. You give it a little more time and draw a line in the sand. Say after like 4 or 5 days of chatting, if he hasn't asked me out, I'm going to ask because you got nothing to lose. That's the way I
Yeah,
really look at all this.
yeah.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
point. Yeah. Hmm. I was one,
Uh-oh.
Oh, Sonia's for you
you know,
frozen. Oh, there you
he
go.
asked me for my number. He asked me for my number immediately, and I gave him my number. He reached out the next day, and he just kept texting, and that it was fun texting, but I was super annoyed. I'm like, why isn't he just asking me out? Because I'd read everywhere that, like guy who really likes you will just ask you out. So he just kept going back and forth on text, and I was getting annoyed because I just wanted him to ask me out. And it's so funny. I reached out to Joe, and Joe, you gave me the best advice. You're like, just go along with it, at least for a couple of days, and just enjoy the banter and like have fun with it, be playful. And then once he's comfortable, he will ask you out. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. Like I just chilled out. I stopped focusing on what I wanted and the outcome. I enjoyed the banter for a couple of days. And then yeah, he finally asked me out. So I think you're right. I think it's also being a bit patient and
It's
just seeing what
enjoying
he does.
the
Yeah.
process. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
enjoying
Yeah.
the process. I mean, to be honest, I feel really bad for guys. You know what I mean? Because I think most women expect them to make the first move. And as I said, Jeff, there's far and few between of you. We need to kind of clone you. And it makes it really difficult for women who are assertive, right? Son's really assertive as well, and she's got no issues with making the first move. And she has been recently as well. But it's hard because like there are those guys that will just text and text and text and text and then not make any move, right? So like, is there a time frame we hang around for? Like, do we give them a
Right.
week? Like, but to your
Mm.
point, Jeff, like everybody's so different. Like, and that's the whole point of this podcast, right? Males and females are so different, but even within the female species and the male species, we're also so different, right? So, what do we do? But this is about, I guess, being brave and doing whatever you want to do, right? If he, as Jeff said, if he's not making the move, then we should just make the move,
Yeah,
right?
and I think it's just having that positive mindset too, Joe. Like don't make the first move and fear rejection. Just go for the first move and have more of a positive outlook where you're thinking, not about rejection, but about, you know what, like I gave it a shot and I tried to see if there was something there and it's not at his end. And, I'm glad I know right off the bat. So, and now I can move on. So you're not left in this kind of holding pattern where you're just thinking and wondering, you actually give it a shot. Yep, you're brave. Yep, okay, he doesn't feel the same way. All right, you move on. So I think that recovery as well from that, that interaction is really important. Just bouncing back from it and just thinking, you know what, we're not all meant to be for each other, and we have our, specific choices and types, and so does everyone else. So it's just kind of bouncing back quickly from that, and that's what I'm trying to employ for myself.
Yeah, and
Part of what
yes. Sorry,
Well,
go,
part of
Jeff.
what I'll add on, Sonia and I were chatting earlier,
Yeah.
and she had asked about dating experience. And geez, after a couple years here, I had dated a lot of first dates. Like meet and greets, I would call it. Just meet for a drink really quick. Um, and I felt like a lot of them were a little bit of effort and a little bit of work. And what I can say about the person I'm dating now, I mean, from that first phone call, it just felt so fluid, so natural. A couple hours on the phone on the first night, followed up the next day by texting all day, and then back on the phone at night. I would say now that I'm feeling this, and we're both saying the same thing, when you find the right person, you're going to feel it. It's not going to feel like you're putting in effort, you're putting in work, you're
Yeah.
questioning, are they into it? Are they interested? I think we both made it really clear very quickly. We were both very interested in seeing where this would go. And that's what I think you're looking for. So if you're 5 days into chatting and he hasn't asked you out yet, something feels off. Probably weighing other options, mostly, chatting with other people
Yeah.
and whatnot. I think if they're really into it, they would ask you, or same with you on the first day. You might open the door. Hey, this is going really well. You want to meet for a coffee or a drink?
And how do you know they're asking you out for legitimate reasons versus to get into your pants? Are there signals that us girls should know?
Ooh. See, I'm not a ask people out to get in their pants type of guy, so I can't give you that signal. I think it's just if you're meeting for a drink, you're meeting for a drink. If they're, what are you doing after this conversation? You kind of get that feeling. I always went into every first date where I was meeting somebody as I'm going there, I'm meeting them, and I'm going home. I had no intention of more, and maybe a little old fashioned, but most of the time I didn't even want to kiss on the first date. It was let me feel this out, let me see where it goes. Not saying it never happened, but generally it's so unsure. Part of the
Mm.
rejection of leaning in for a kiss is a little rough. You don't know if they want it, you don't know if I always felt like I was going to make them uncomfortable too, but if they're okay, let's do date two, now it's pretty clear, kisses on the table because now we're both talking about it and we're going to date two.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like only a certain number of quota of women should ever be able to kiss your lips, Jeff. Because you're like a god in like our close out the podcast, guys. Any last words of wisdom? Jeff, I'll go to you first. Any words of wisdom for us female people out there?
Yeah, I would say in person, make sure if you're interested, make sure you really open the door. And I think that is a say something. If you're at the gym, you're at the supermarket, you're wherever, just saying hi, lets a guy know that you're open to speaking. So that would make it easier to get the approach going. And then on the dating apps and all that, I think there's no harm in asking or waiting. But I think waiting, draw your own line in the sand. After like 5 days, if he hasn't asked you out and you're chatting back and forth, if you're interested, I would say, hey, you want to grab a drink or a coffee? I don't think there's any harm, but endless texting is not for me. And I'd assume similar with you guys. You want to know, you want to move on, and if they're not the one, then cut bait and keep moving. So I think that's my advice.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Thanks, Jeff. All right, over to you,
yeah.
Son.
Thanks, Javina. I would have to say my advice is for both guys and girls. I think we all just need to keep it really simple, like if there's interest, and there's a connection, just be brave, and just ask the question. Like, don't look at it as a risk. Look at it more as an invitation, to continue to getting to know someone better. Like, be genuine about it, be authentic. And if the answer is no, or if you don't get, the positive response that you're looking for, just change your mindset and just start to think and believe that, you know what, like I tried and, this is not the one for me. And now it's time to move on to the next. And you're never going to see that person again.
Right.
That's what I keep forgetting. So I think we all just need to be brave. I think dating has become very complicated, and I feel like there are a lot of like different mind games. And I think just with the age that we're in right now, I think let's just all keep it simple. And when there's a connection, let's just all bring it to the surface and just, see whether there's reciprocation. And that's it. So hopefully that helps. I hope it helps me.
Amazing. That's great, guys. And I think the point on rejection is key, right? We don't like everybody, so we shouldn't expect everybody to like us either, right? It's just human nature. I think people take it personally and they shouldn't. So yeah, I agree with you guys. Let's live boldly and, not wait for things to happen and make it happen. Because I think in a lot of other aspects of our lives, we do that. And then when it comes to dating, people tend to sit back. And I'm not sure why that is, but I feel
Yeah.
like it's because of that sense of or potential sense of rejection. So we've got to just get out there and make it happen. But that brings us to the end of the first podcast of What He Meant,
Aw.
What She Heard. Thank you to my beautiful guests, Jeff and Sonia. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to have you guys on again because you did such a great job. So bad luck. You'll probably have to do this again on a more interesting topic in the future. And then for anybody listening to the podcast, if you guys want to participate, just message me on Instagram. Again, it's called What He Meant, What She Heard. Thanks, guys. Take
Thank
care.
Thank
you. Thanks,
you.
Until next
everyone. Thanks,
time.
Javina. It was nice meeting you, Jeff.
Nice meeting you too.